Hi everyone, Ainsley here from Small Fry Creations. Today I'm going to show you how you can DIY your Christmas tree this year 3 different ways. Let's do it. I started the small tree off with 18mm square pine. The bottom of the tree was 400mm in length and got smaller by 40mm with each cut, finishing with the top piece being 40mm. I used leftover material to cut 18mm little squares which would act as spaces. With all these cuts, I used every millimetre of the two 1.2m sticks. Once I finished marking the middle of the pieces, I could take them to the drill press and drill a 9.5mm hole with the Forstner bit. With my sander clamped to the bench, I could sand all the pieces, and I also applied 2 coats of clear coat before assembly. I got a scrap block of 2x4 and used this as my base. With a hole drilled in the block not all the way through, I could put my dowel in place and start threading the pieces on. I only applied glue to the last piece as I wanted the pieces to move freely so I could hang decorations if I wanted to. And with only about an hour's work, you have a great Christmas tree that you can decorate any way you like. Moving on to the medium tree. To help get the shape of the tree right, I used a great video by DIY Huntress. I'll leave a link in the description to the video. I cut a 30-degree triangle from scrap and made my way down the piece of the 12mm plywood. I would measure in 20mm from each side and use my framing square to keep everything square and line the mark up with the triangle and draw my lines. I continued this process down the board until I ran out of room. I could then draw a line across and make a mark in the middle. I measured 50mm each side of the centre mark and this would become my trunk. You can then use my least favourite tool in the workshop, the jigsaw, and cut the tree out. Now you can use scrap plywood or any wood for that matter to make your shelves, but I had some of my Christmas tree trunk left over from last year, so I decided to cut this into chunks and use this as my shelves. Once I had all the pieces, I could use the miter saw to cut a straight edge so that I could screw it onto the tree. I placed the pieces in the order I liked and marked the top and the bottom. I could then drill a hole in the middle. To make the base and the stand of the tree, I trimmed off the round edges of a 2x4 and cut it down to 35mm square. You can then cut 4 equal parts of the base. Mine are 180mm each. Then it's just a matter of putting them around your stand and screwing it all together. With the stand now constructed, I could glue it onto the tree, making sure it was centered. I sanded and painted everything before assembly, and I decided to paint my tree white so my trunk shelves would stand out. There is no easy way for me to clamp the trunks into place, so I just held them and pushed them up against the tree while I screwed it into place. Now for the big guy. The process is very similar to the little tree. I used FJ pine and cut lengths starting from 900mm and then came down 100mm each time, finishing with a 100mm piece. I made the stand for the tree from a 2x4. I simply trimmed the rounded edges off and skip planed them with the thicknesser just to get rid of all of the lumps. I did the same process as the other tree and cut 4 equal lengths of 195mm and screwed everything into place. It was then time to assemble the tree. I cut a spacer of 50mm and also a spacer of 32mm, which will be my centre spacer. I marked the middle of each of the piece so that when I would assemble I could line up the centre mark with the 32mm spacer. I then glued and nailed each piece into place. Now for what I consider the tricky part. I used SketchUp to make sure I was putting marks in the right place. I basically came in 30mm from each side and then starting from the top found the centre and then on the piece below would mark between the middle of the top two pieces so everything was offset. This would make sure that the decorations would have a place to hang. With a 1/2 inch or 12.5mm Forstner bit in my drill, I could start the tiring task of drilling 45 holes. With the holes all drilled, I could then set a stop block on my miter saw and cut 45 pieces of dowel. I cut mine to 30mm. I also put a 0 clearance on the miter saw to help with tear out and stop the pieces from flying all around the workshop. I again sanded and applied clear coat before putting the dowels in place because that would just be a nightmare. Mine are just friction fitted, but you can always glue yours into place if you like. Now your tree is ready for decorations. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to hit those subscribe and like buttons so you can keep up with what I'm building next.